Welcome, Sandra and Spencer. Thank you so much for chatting to us. Welcome to the Falso Mutis cyberspace. You're our first English-speaking interview, and we're really, really excited to have members of Harlem 9 with us. If you could please introduce yourself and what is your role in your company, and then we can get started.
You want to go, Spencer?
Sure. So I'm Spencer Scott Barros. I am one of the producers and one of the original founding members of Harlem 9. Generally speaking, when we used to do the productions in a theater, I was responsible for getting together the crew and all of the tech people and all that kind of stuff, and managing all the back of house stuff, as well as, you know, any producing responsibilities that fell into my lap.
I'm Sandra Daley, and I'm also one of the producers. I'm one of the 6 producers, Spencer and I. And so, yeah, we're really responsible doing everything. In some ways, you know, yeah. So I'm one of the 6 producers.
Yeah.
She's being very modest because she's actually responsible for so much more than that. She's like the base. She does everything.
Right. Whatever. And so, yes, it's 6 of us, and this is 2 of 6 of us.
Fantastic. And I suppose some of our audience may not be familiar with Harlem 9, so I would absolutely love to learn a little bit about what you do as a company and how you got started. If you could tell me the story of the beginnings of Harlem 9.
Sandra.
You want to take that?
No, you can take it.
Well, we started about 10 years ago. Spencer and I actually are part of a theater company together called Liberation Theater Company. And we primarily do development work with Black playwrights, developing their work, bringing it to ready for production. That's our mission per se. Really early on, we recognized that we wanted to do more, and that would require collaborating with fellow organizations and or independent producers. And so 10 years ago, we invited a slew of Black producers, and I really should say Black and people of color producing organizations together. We had about 20 some people in our first meeting together. It quickly dwindled down to 12, 9, and now a family of 6. The biggest thing that we do that is in front of us is that we produce a 10-minute festival every year, and that's what we've been doing. And in 2014, we won an Obie for that work that we're doing in terms of like really featuring Black artists. 30, which is 6 playwrights, 6 directors, 18 actors each year. And at some point, we wanted to expand on that mission and go into communities that we felt we wanted to feature and or uplift underrepresented voices in those communities. And so we had the opportunity to do that with Progonus, which would amplify.
I am so sorry. Bryan, the fellow member, has appeared.
Oh.
Yay! I'm going to please keep that in mind while I admit Bryan before he thinks we've abandoned him.
Yay.
Yes.
So as we watch him visually connect.
Hey, Bryan Glover.
Hello, Bryan.
Hello, Amanda. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. So this is great because we've caught right in the middle of the first question. You've integrated as Sandra's telling us a bit about the beginnings of Harlem 9 and what you're doing now. So I'm just going to let you come in right into the thick of it.
10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Sandra, sorry to have interrupted you. Continue.
No, so Bryan came in at a great point where we were talking about our relationship with Progonus Theater and our opportunity to share this festival with the Latinx community. Bryan Glover, one of our 6, the other of our 6 producing bodies. He's great friends with Jorge Merced, and we had that opportunity 3-4 years ago to join with Progonus in having the art festival in the Bronx. And it's been a wonderful opportunity for us. That is a festival that we thoroughly enjoy, and it's an opportunity to reach and meet a slew of other artists that we would not have done on our own. So that collaboration is wonderful. And from there, we've done this festival in Detroit last year, and we are looking to expand even more so into other,
48
states.
hours in London, 48 hours in
Yes,
London.
I mean, I would love to do that. Yeah. So that's an opportunity. So just to let you know, as we reach forward into the conversation, of course, we're looking to expand our mission globally as well.
The thing that that I think is important when we think about those things is that we really, I don't know, maybe you mentioned this before, we really connect with the local community. So, it's a local theater, local companies, local artists, to try to really have our resulting 6 plays to really reflect the culture, concerns, and the community that we're a part of. So we don't sort of just drop in and do our thing. We really work with a partner there to make it happen.
Yes.
And one of the other things that we do, which I think is really great, is we also communicate with the local community vendors. So, for example, in our festival, we always feed the artists dinner, and we partner with a local restaurant in the Bronx. It happens to be a Spanish food restaurant. In Harlem, it happens to be a Caribbean food restaurant, and so we partner with local business organizations as well to help promote them and help get the word out, get them coming in to be part of the audience, etc. So.
So would you say that, was it a community sort of based thing, that sort of your mission when you initiated this sort of project? Was it about bringing communities together? What was the sort of mission behind Harlem 9 when you conceived it initially in that meeting with 20 people that soon turned into 12, 9, and then 6?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it was a community-based mission in the sense that most of us, we were in Harlem. It felt like a mission. It also felt like we were in the middle of a Harlem Renaissance, to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 years ago, that's sort of, I want to make it clear that it always feels like to me in this 10 years of being together that we are in the middle of making history. I've always felt that is the thing that has been pushing us forward, even when we felt tired and didn't want to do it, that we're really in the midst of history making. So to answer that question in terms of community, we've always been a part, feeling that we are really grounded in Harlem itself, in the community itself, and how that feeds the city at large. But when we move into Detroit, yes, it makes sense to us to collaborate with a theater company that's there. We're there ultimately to learn about other cultures, right? So what's the point of moving into a space and putting ourselves on top of it? You're not learning, in my mind. So yes, we're going into spaces to learn, to expand, to what does it truly mean to be underrepresented? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so you go into those communities looking and eager to learn about what those voices are and what stories they're telling. So yes, it is very much a community-based mission.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so with Harlem, excuse me, all of the artists are African American, right? In the Bronx, the majority of the artists are Latinx. Not all, because where the theater is based, Jorge is very adamant about, this community has changed and I want to incorporate all of that in. So the majority of the artists are Latinx, but not all of them. In Detroit, it's a mixture of a variety of underrepresented voices. The Middle Eastern Muslim voice isn't heard a lot. It's not all African American. We have a mixture of cultures in the company. So again, it's based on what are the needs of this particular community, who's not being heard, who's not being uplifted in that particular community. Anybody want to tackle that?
Who wants to tackle that one?
That first initial meeting when we sat down with 20 and maybe it got down to 12 by then, I don't know, but we wanted to find a project, something that we could work on. And at that time, the 24-hour festivals was something that was like hip and going on, and it was going wild and on fire. And the 24-hour producers were doing that thing. And so someone at the table mentioned, you know, let's do a 24-hour festival, something to that effect. I know that the conversations that came up was that we wanted it to be meaningful in a particular way. We didn't just want it to be a fun hodgepodge of prompts and you know, have a pig in your story. You know what I mean?
Like just another typical 24-hour festival. We weren't trying to
we wanted it to be impactful in a particular way. So one of the things was that, you know, we definitely wanted to reach back into history, into a canon of work, and have that be an influence. But the 48-hour concept in some ways was that we were also looking at standard, or looking at, we wanted quality work. We did not necessarily, we thought 24 hours that's way too short. Let's do 48. Now we're realizing that 48 is still kind of crazy as well. But with that said, 48 hours gives us, for us, more time to breathe, to develop, to collaborate, to build friendships, to network, to truly collaborate and build the work. And it is definitely an inspired festival in 48 hours. But for us, we added that extra 24 because we felt that, why not? You know, why not give them more time and more space and give ourselves more? You were going to say,
yeah. I was going to say, Bryan, why don't you, because Amanda may not know like how the 48 hours breaks down. And since it's part of your speech, what, you know, you always give the speech about, why don't you tell her how we do that?
Yeah, and I think so basically we're thinking like, you know, 48 hours would still keep the intensity that people experience in these other short festivals, but it does give a little bit more breathing room. People have a couple of nights to sleep on things and reflect. So basically we bring our artists together, 6 playwrights, 6 directors, and 18 actors. We bring them together on Friday evening. So we have a meet and greet where everybody can sort of talk about what they love about the place they're in. And then we randomly sort them into companies, 6 companies, you know, with 1 playwright, director, and 3 actors each. So that's just a random thing that happens. We don't know who they're going to work with until they get there. Even though we have chosen 6 plays usually, or some other source material, for the playwrights to think about and read over the months before we ask them, they don't know what they're going to get to work on until that evening as well. So the intensity really starts that evening. So we give them a little bit of time to talk about the work, and then we expect the playwrights to turn into us a 10-minute play by 5 a.m. the next morning on Saturday. We have rehearsal happening on Saturday for the 6 groups. And then Sunday, we're teching. We do tech on Sunday all during the day. And they are performing off book on Sunday evening. Then we live one night only. So it's been pretty exciting. Our audiences love it and come back every year.
And it's also, what's really, really great about it is there are challenges for everybody involved. So obviously the actors are challenged with having to learn a script overnight. The writer's challenged with having to write a script overnight. The director's challenged with, oftentimes we'll give them a prop or something that they have to incorporate into the piece and utilize it in a specific way. But we don't put limitations on them, which I think is so great. So the writer is free to be influenced by this piece that we've given them, but that influence can be whatever they want it to be. It could be based on the title, it could be based on a character, and it could be based on an incident in there, or what would happen at the end of the play, what would be the next step after the play, or I mean, they can do whatever they want, and people have come up with the most amazing short stories based on previously known works that is just unbelievable.
I think, you know, what we didn't realize when we first started was that it really is 48 hours for the producers, especially in those early years, because, you know, the playwrights work and they finish by 5 a.m. on Saturday. They can take a little break, you know, and the directors and actors start on Saturday. But we really, once we get going, pretty much maybe Thursday night beforehand, but certainly by Friday, we are managing that process for the full 48 hours. So it gets, we really are 48 hours.
And it's important to note too, Amanda, that there's a lot of planning that goes long before that 48 hours, just in terms of getting the source materials to them. The 30 artists are handpicked, they're invited, they're given this material. We are also committed in in providing an amazing experience for them, you know, we really want them to walk away feeling inspired and taking this moment into something else, into another moment. What is it truly like to be in a space where you are collaborating and creating with like folks, people of color, people of culture that are same? And that is an amazing experience. And to walk away feeling that the standard is high, and that is one of the things we are proud of. We create safe and creative space for artists to create and to make mistakes and to do, you know what I mean? It's like there's no judgment in that. It really truly is about creating that safe space to create and to provide community. So there's a lot that goes into it. Believe me, by the time we're done, we're exhausted. It's like, don't talk to me again.
And we didn't talk about this. We actually publish the plays. So
Yeah.
that every 2 years we do a volume of 2 years worth of works. So the writers' plays get published, the actors' names and everything are in them, and schools and organizations can get them and you know, look at these 10-minute plays for subject material in acting classes, etc. It's great.
So we have 4 volumes of work from African American, from Black playwrights from Harlem, and 1 volume of work from Latinx playwrights in Bronx.
Yeah. Working on volume 2 for the Bronx.
Apart from getting incredibly excited about seeing full anthologies in your hands, because as a fellow sort of writer and creative, it is so incredible to see your work, you know, legitimized and in paper. Like you've seen all these people that don't look like you or sound like you be legitimized for so long. It is really, really exciting. I want to get a bit of insight onto the various steps of your festival. So when you finished this year's 48 hours, let's say, how do you begin your selection for the next year? How do you choose your artists?
That's a good question.
Well,
yeah.
Before we even start selecting the artists, we really do start talking about for next year, what are the themes or what are the plays or what is the inspiration material for the following year? I mean, you know, with Jorge and Pregones, Jorge is a creative machine in and of himself. And so even though with Harlem, we tend to like focus on plays, Jorge has come up with poems, he comes up with articles, he comes up with photographers, which is all really quite beautiful because it influenced us when we went to Detroit. We chose poems and photos, and that, you know, I'm a writer myself, so I love all of that as inspiration for the work. So we do that. And then amongst the 6 of us, you know, it's not so much that we don't want to audition people, but it's a lot of work what we're doing anyway. So just to find 6 playwrights, 6 directors, and 18 actors, you're confirming all of them for a weekend. They have to be available for the entire weekend. So that in and of itself, and sending out invites and sending out agreements that we have them signed that you're going to show up, right? You're going to do this for the entire weekend. It's a commitment. So that's what we do in terms of the selection and in finding 30 artists, which in and of itself is a feat. And then we're doing marketing up to that point. You can imagine questions are coming back and forth from 30 artists to all of us. There are many things we have to, you know, secure venue. We have to make sure all of that food, they're fed, they get, you know, they have to drink and eat at the meet and greet and all of those things. There are a lot of moving parts.
Also, the other thing is, so the 6 producers, like so Sandra and I have have a theater company together, Liberation Theater Company. Bryan has his own company. The other 3 producers each have their own companies. So all year long, we're always all going to shows, showcases, getting invited to see this and see that. And I know for me on my phone, I'm always like making note if I see somebody in a play that I'm like, oh, they're amazing. We got to get them in 48 hours. I write their name down or, you know, circle them on the program, find out if there's a way to get into contact with them. Same thing with directors, or if I see a play that is particularly brilliant writing, I wonder if they would want to write for 48 hours. So all year round, we're always looking at people and making notes so that when it does come time to put out offers, we don't have to audition. Hopefully the people that we, and most often the people that we ask initially, usually by now they've heard of our reputation and say absolutely. And unless they're not available because they're on another project or they're out of town, I think those are usually the only 2 excuses we hear no for. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I suppose that means you're engaging with the work of people that you would want and represent what you want in your 48 hours throughout the entire year. So you're searching for talent in all these different areas of theater to try and make that happen and get the best people there.
And it's important to know that, you know, yes, when you have people with experience or are noteworthy, that brings attention to your festival. But know, Amanda, that we are also committed to giving space and opportunity to new and emerging. It's very much an emerging festival. Or there are people who are new to New York City. You know what I mean? It's like after 10 years, I'm no longer interested truly in, oh, this playwright has written 10 plays. We know by now that it is a challenge for anybody. So, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm more than happy in giving people opportunity to, you know, write for the first time. Because even you can have a playwright who's an amazing playwright, and then you say to them, hey, write a play. Play overnight. And they'll look at you like, we've had festivals where somebody says, oh, I don't have a play.
5 a.m. on the Saturday.
Right. What's really great too is, you know, if we have some more experienced talent and some emerging talent, they get to work together. So it's not often, you know, it's not often the case where people might get to work with people they never thought they would have worked with before. And you know, once we get to the day of action, you know, everybody's just giving their best, and it's really a nice experience for people to sort of work in that community.
And you mentioned that let's say the themes, the concepts have varied. So initially it was plays of the canon, let's say, by African-American writers. And how has that shifted? Was that an ongoing for 5 years and then you moved on to different things? How has that changed? How do you choose?
That's interesting. So we've gone through a variety of processes in Harlem. I remember one year we chose two writers. They were writers. They had written plays and other things. So we found 3 source materials from each of those writers. And it was just they were the 2 focuses. One year we chose African fables. And so we found 6 different African fables, and that was the source material. As Sandra said with Jorge, he wanted to incorporate photographers as well as writers or musicians or whatever. And so we would get 6, we'd get different sources, and you didn't know what you were going to get. You got this picture and this song and this poem, and then you had to create from that. And so it's been great for us because it keeps it fresh. It keeps it, challenging,
Talking about your relationship with the Latinx community and the Bronx, when did that begin? And how did that happen? Did you meet Pregones and were like, hey, do you want to get involved? Or how did that come about?
It was all Bryan.
Well, I had been familiar with Pregones. I've been familiar with Pregones for a number of years. So I have a history in the Bronx, and I've been to Pregones a few times. And I've been friends with Jorge, who is the artistic director. And, as we were doing things in Harlem, and as I went to Pregones Theater, and it just dawned on me, hey, we can do this here. We had been talking about maybe doing other locations. And as I frequented Pregones, I'm like, well, this is a location that exists. It's right close to Harlem. Let's do this first. And so we talked with Jorge, invited him to see our show, and then made it happen. I think the first year was 2016 when we started in El Bronx.
Fantastic. It's so exciting. It just sounds amazing what you do. Just so thrilling.
Similarly, we the way we got to Detroit was one of our producers, Galia Jones-Lee, is from Detroit. And she's been wanting to bring the festival there for a while. I happen to love Detroit too, and so that seemed like a natural next extension. I mean, we have a lot of the producers have connections in different places, so it's always a matter of, identifying resources and partners to work with.
On this year's festival, so tell us a bit about when is it? How have you adapted to the current world situation, and how can we support? How's that going?
I can tell you could support by buying a ticket.
Absolutely.
We'll have those information, yeah, harlem9.org. But yeah, this year's festival, who wants to take that on? I don't even know how to begin that. We're still sort of in it.
Yeah. So what we you know, obviously with Corona, we couldn't do a live, and we couldn't do the Bronx this year because that usually happens in the spring, which was right in the heart of Corona.
Yeah,
so there was
we
no
had
way.
it all planned. We had everyone selected.
Yeah, we were like ready to move ahead, and New York City shut down and theater shut down, and so we were like, well, we're gonna have to postpone this. So we weren't sure what was gonna happen with Harlem. As the quarantine got lifted more and more, we still weren't, you know, there's still not a theater space to do it in. And then I don't remember who, one of the producers said, why don't we try to do it digitally? And we thought, is it going to work? Is it going to be the same? But, you know, we went back and forth with it. We decided, hey, let's give it a shot. So we reached out to 6 playwrights, 6 directors, 18 actors. You know, we went through all of our lists and then we did it you know, we tried to format it the same way. The only difference online is instead of it taking place in a 48-hour period from beginning to end, we've sort of chunked it up into 48-hour chunks to do online. So the meet and greet and the writers writing their play, all of that happened in a 48-hour period. The rehearsal and the recording of all of the plays, that happened in a 48-hour period. So that's how we're sort of still sticking to 48 hours digital. And then, so it'll premiere August 20th, the premiere night of the festival. And then it'll re-air for 3 more nights or 4 more nights after that. If you
it will stream
for 96 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It will be streaming from the 20th till the 24th. Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll buy your ticket and you can watch it anytime until the 24th at 7 p.m. We are going to all be watching it together on the 20th, including the producers.
All 30 artists.
Yes, everyone on the 20th at 7 p.m. So if you can join us then, but if you can't on the 20th at 7 p.m., you'll be able to watch it other times. I think we're definitely gonna have like a Twitter party where we watch it again on the 23rd and try to watch it again on the 24th. But yes, officially we open on the 20th at 7 p.m. Find the tickets on harlem9.org.
Yeah.
You can get tickets there, but also know that you can get tickets at Harlem9, that's the number 9, .veeps.com, and Veeps is VEEPS.com. I think one of the things that is exciting about this is the opportunity for us to be presenting these stories on a global level. So now we're reaching you, I'm so excited we're all really excited for these stories to now hit Australia, you know, hit like outside of the country, Singapore, wherever. I mean, that is exciting. And that's something that COVID brought that, I mean, my God, you know.
I have a great one. Oh, well, I think it's great. So the first year we were performing at the Harlem School of the Arts, and we didn't know if people were going to show up, why people weren't buying tickets, what was going to happen, is everything going to work? And then to top it all off, it started raining that day. And we were like, oh God, there goes our audience. Nobody's going to show up. And then somebody posted, I don't remember who it was because I was running around backstage, and somebody said, look at this. Somebody was outside and posted and took a picture, and there was a line down the block turning of umbrellas, people waiting to get into, and I was like, ah! And I just like, oh yeah, this is it, we did this. And that always stood out for me. Like, that was when I said, okay, we're on to something, we're good.
So
well, you stole my moment, Spencer. That's the one that I love as well. I'll never forget that first night. You know, the rain was so incredible, and yet still we had we had standing room only, and the feeling was magical.
Yeah.
Go, Bryan. You've got another one of great ones.
You know, I think one of the other, I mean, I think each time we do a new city. So Pregones was great, being there the first time, and to realize that we could bring this outside of New York and do it in Detroit, that was a really, really, that sort of felt like, yes, we can make this work, what we have here and what we create in the space that we hold, we can bring this to other locations outside of New York and make it really, really nice and really appreciated by the people and communities we work with.
I don't have a specific moment, but I can say that every single time we do this, whether it's at the meet and greet or at the very end on Sunday evenings, I'm always caught unaware of just how frigging amazing this is, because it's like everybody is in this room feeling so grateful and moved, audience moved, grateful, that I'm always swept up and overwhelmed by, we're onto something. Oh my God, how amazing this is. This is what we're on the planet for. Oh my God. It's just, it is really quite, it's the thing that theater does, right? That you can't duplicate. And it's like, yeah, so yeah, we're onto something in that way. I don't care where we go. I know that this formula of bringing people together, people are hungry for it, audience and artists alike. They're hungry for it, and it's infallible. It's like, yeah.
So Sandra mentioned about 10 years ago, and it's been continuous, but about 10 years ago, there was this renaissance happening with, particularly with Black artists in Harlem, but in arts in general for BIPOC artists. And I feel like we were lucky enough to come together at the forefront of that. And we've watched other organizations grow as we've grown, that we respect and we support, and they respect us and they support us. And I am absolutely convinced that when this story is told, when history looks back and tells this story, Harlem 9 and 48 Hours in Harlem will have a chapter in that book. And that to me is everything. Like, that has meant everything. And the fact that the six of us have just become a family, and it doesn't matter, you know, we fight, we have, you know, we're not always in agreement with things, but we all want the same thing. We all want the same result, and we always end up achieving it. And it's just the thing I'm probably most proud of as an artist is working with these producers and doing this festival.
Yeah.
I think
I'm sorry, Bryan.
Go ahead, Sandra.
No, I think the thing to remember too, Amanda, is like we didn't know each other.
Well,
really.
Sandra,
Spencer and I knew each other, but really, in terms of the six people who are left in the room, we didn't know each other. We took a leap of faith in terms of being together. We are truly led by the artistic gods, the mission gods, the make a difference in the world gods. We are kind of pulled together and led by that, even when we don't feel inclined to do that and be so. It's a bigger mission than us, and so just, yeah, we are really here to amplify underrepresented voices. That's what we're here to do, and that's what we are trying our darndest to do. And we're excited about, please bring us wherever we need to go to make that happen. And know that we come there humbly, because there are things that we don't know. And we really do come into each community with, teach us, show us, tell your story, beat that drum. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
I think what's special too, which speaks to what both Sandra and Spencer said, you know, is that the six of us really do share a commitment to the space that we're holding for these artists to create. And so, you know, there's a lot of outlets for people, for BIPOC people to speak, right? Not as many as we would all like, but one of the things that's unique about what we do is we bring community together. So we're not just saying, hey, we want to commission this one playwright, or we're looking for one director. We're actually bringing together 30 artists for a community in a weekend. And I think that's what makes it really special, because the artists realize that they get an opportunity to work in a community of people focused around the same goal. And how often does that opportunity come to one artist, right? And as producers, we hold that sacred as well. And so we're really determined and clear about the end goal, which is to have a space where these artists can create and do their best work in that weekend.
And I will say that it's a badge of honor that we found with these artists, that when it's all said and done, oh yeah, I did 48 hours. You know what I mean? I did 48 hours. It's like, it may seem small over the weekend, but I think when you leave, and you'll find that, and an amazing thing that one of the artists said, with this digital format, at the end of our toast, you guys, she said, I was reluctant to hit leave. When you have to press the leave button. And it is sort of that feeling at the end of the weekend. You do feel like, oh my God, I was in a cocoon for two days. This was such an amazing feeling to be creating with this body of people. And so you kind of go out into the world like, oh yeah, I was part of that 48-hour thing. Now I know such and such and such and such and such, 29 other people, and the legacy of that. It may seem small, but it is really it is almost like I'm connected to a network of people who did come together to do this, and I can actually reach out to them. I mean, that's sort of what Janelle is doing, right? She's like, I know Sandra. Oh, I remember those Harlem 9 people. We want to do this interview. Hey, let's reach out. You know what I mean? And so that is what the community, networking, all of that is about, ultimately.
And it's, if you look at the raw numbers, we're close to having worked with over 500 artists. I mean, if you think the 10 years of Harlem, the almost 4 years in the Bronx, South Carolina, Detroit, and our alumni support, when we do a performance, so we used to start with one show. We had to add a second performance because it was just people were complaining that they couldn't get in. Artists were saying, oh, I messed up. I'd love a second opportunity. So we started adding a second show. That second show almost became exclusively all alumni. Alumni would buy that second show tickets. People from previous years had worked in the festival. So it's you have entered this family. And it is a badge of honor, Sandra, you're right, because when you go to an audition, it's like you see people that you know from 48 hours and you're like, hey, So, yeah.
And it is just so relevant and important to have community and empowerment and connection with like-minded individuals that understand your story and your interests and your journeys. So I really absolutely celebrate what you do, because it's unique and so inspiring, because it's been 10 years and you've been at it and you're good and successful and you champion people. And you can do this, which is really, really amazing.
But I want to say, I know we're getting close soon. A part of your question that came up about the stories and how relevant they are and why they're relevant, the thing that I want to say is that despite the fact that they are inspired by a particular piece, every year, especially this year in the midst of COVID and all that is going on about race and culture and discrimination, you have to know that every year, whether it's in the Bronx, in Detroit, in North Carolina, where we were last year, the stories are relevant to this time. They may be inspirations of work that was from 10 years ago and longer or whatever, but the stories in and of themselves represent now. And you're gonna find that's the reason why you've got to watch Digital Edition. They're responding to this time, this moment, what's happening right now. So they're very relevant, the stories, That's, again, why I would be so excited to be someplace in Ghana or wherever there is political unrest, wherever in the world that people have something to say. Be sure that this platform gives them space to speak to what's going on in the streets, what's going on in their homes at this moment.